Hi everyone, I'm so glad you could join me for my very first webinar, so thanks for listening. Empowered Sustenance is all about addressing all aspects of wellness, and there are three main pillars to wellness: nutrition, movement, and sleep. Sleep is the pillar that I've neglected, and you want to know why? It's because even as I straightened out my many health problems over the years, I still suffered from insomnia. I've faced insomnia as long as I can remember, and actually, I should say, as long as my parents can remember. It's taken me this long to fit the pieces together, and I'm so happy to share these pieces with you today. I like webinars short, so this is going to be brief but information-packed. So get ready to take notes if you need to. First, I'm going to share my unorthodox but very effective tips for sleep, and then I have the privilege to interview Dr. Nicole Zimmerman, an expert chiropractor and director of healthcare at the healthcare channel at intelliBED, which is the non-toxic mattress company that I'm working with right now. Not only is intelliBED a safe mattress, it is designed to improve sleep quality and has been the biggest factor in fixing my insomnia. So let's jump into my sleep tips. First is do not sit all day. Our bodies are simply not designed to sit all the time. We need to be standing and walking to circulate the lymphatic fluid, to eliminate toxins, to engage spinal alignment, to activate muscles. All these things are vital to better sleep. One thing that I found, both from working with clients and from my own experience, is that standing instead of sitting during the day makes a big difference in sleep quality. I use a standing desk, which is a great option for those who work at a computer. Second is stick to a sleep schedule. This one sounds simple, but it is absolutely vital. Create a regular sleep schedule and stick to it religiously, even on weekends. You want to have lights out by 10 p.m. because the time from 10 to 12 is extremely important for the body's restorative processes. 3 is use loose, natural fiber pajamas, or none at all. This may sound like an odd suggestion, but there is something about being naked that helps the body shift into the parasympathetic state, which is the rest, digest, relaxed state of the nervous system. You won't find any scientific studies on this, but it is widely agreed upon by many holistic practitioners that clothes partly inhibit the parasympathetic mode. Now, if sleeping with no clothes won't work for you, then I suggest using the loosest, most breathable pajamas possible. So avoid leggings and sports bras and other tight clothes when sleeping. Another tip is using natural fiber pajamas, like 100% pure cotton or pure silk or pure linen. Synthetic fabrics like rayon and polyester are made with quite toxic chemicals that can have subtle effects on health, so I prefer to avoid these and use natural fiber pajamas. Now 4 is reduce EMF exposure while sleeping. This is another tip that you probably have not heard before. Like I discussed, we're in parasympathetic mode when we're sleeping, and this means our defenses are completely down. So we are most vulnerable to toxins and chemicals in our environment. And Wi-Fi is a toxin, interestingly, because the frequency disrupts the cellular communication in our body. Many people who are sensitive to their environment find they sleep so much better when the Wi-Fi is turned off. And at my house, the routine is that the last person awake goes and turns the Wi-Fi off before they go to bed. There are other practical changes you can make to reduce EMFs. And EMFs are these harmful electrical frequencies in your bedroom. So 2 high sources of EMFs are electric blankets and heating pads. So many people sleep with an electric blanket on. The better alternative is just to use more blankets because those heating blankets and plug-in blankets have a lot of EMFs. Number 5 is no screens before bed. The light in our environment plays a very important role in our sleep hormones, including melatonin. Computer screens emit a blue light that tricks the body into thinking it is daylight. I recommend turning off all screens at least an hour before bed. This will help balance melatonin, and it also helps you relax and turn off your brain from work emails or drama on Facebook or whatever the case may be. I also recommend installing a free program called FLUX, and that's spelled F.LUX. And you can put this on your computer or tablet or phone. And what this does is after sunset, it removes the blue light from the computer screen. Number 6 is sleep in a completely black room. When you turn out your lights at night, it should be so dark that you can't see your hand in front of your face. So do whatever it takes to black out your bedroom. I put a towel to cover the crack of light at the base of my door, and then I also use heavy-duty blackout blinds. Sleeping mask, one of those things that you can cover your eyes with during the night, that's suitable for traveling, but it's not ideal. You really want to have the room black. Number 7 is don't rely on melatonin supplements. When I'm asked about melatonin, I say melatonin is a hormone, it's not a sleeping pill. And as such, it really needs to be approached with due caution. When we take a hormone into our body, it has the potential to not only disrupt our regulation of that specific hormone, but it can throw off many other hormones in the body. Melatonin plays an extremely important role in balancing our circadian rhythm and helping us go to sleep, but we should ideally support healthy melatonin production with lifestyle changes, not popping melatonin supplements like candy. Number 8 is make sure you get enough magnesium. Magnesium is a relaxing mineral, and it calms the mind and relaxes the muscles. If you have restless leg syndrome, you've got to get more magnesium. A very effective and affordable way to get magnesium is through magnesium oil. And it's not an oil, it's actually a solution of water and dissolved magnesium flakes. I have a recipe and some very thorough directions for magnesium oil on Empowered Sustenance, and also an article about how to get magnesium through food and supplements. So you can just put magnesium into the search bar on empoweredsustenance.com to read that. Number 9 is guided imagery. Guided imagery is listening to a narrator and very soothing, quiet music. You're directed to bring your awareness to your breath and body while picturing yourself in a relaxing setting. It's a very powerful tool and has been proven helpful for numerous health issues such as high blood pressure in controlled studies, and it's actually used in hospitals for cancer recovery too. There are many options for guided imagery, and I like the ones by Bella Ruth Naparstek. Her last name is on the screen. It has an interesting spelling. And you can purchase her guided imagery albums on iTunes or on CD. I like the one called Guided Imagery for Healthful Sleep, and the other one is called Guided Imagery for General Wellness. And number 10 is choose the right sleep surface. I have done a lot of research lately on mattresses because I was concerned about the toxins in mattresses. Recently, I realized that the worst flare-up ever of my autoimmune disease exactly correlated to the week that I had begun sleeping on a new mattress, and it really hit me that maybe the chemicals had something to do with that. So switching to a non-toxic, supportive mattress has been the biggest factor in improving my sleep. And that's what we're going to talk in more detail right now. So those are some of my sleep tips for you. And now I want to introduce you to Nicole Zimmerman. She's a chiropractor and an expert on sleep wellness. She's going to talk about the holistic sleep technology of intelliBED. This technology has changed my life, like I said, and also the lives of tens of thousands of others. And we are going to discuss why your mattress is such a vital component of not only your sleep quality, but also the toxic burden in your life. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Lauren. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk with your readers and to tell them a little bit more about why sleep is so important to our health, as well as the mattress and how that can really affect quality of sleep. So let's go ahead and get started. So we believe wellness is kind of like a triangle. It's easy to place exercise and diet as two sides of that triangle, and it's easy to understand why they're so important to our lifestyle, but I don't think a lot of us take the time and really think about how important sleep is to us. I believe that sleep really is the foundation to how healthy we are, and I always like to argue that a lot of us in life can get away with maybe a less than perfect diet or maybe not enough exercise, but none of us can get away without consistent restorative quality sleep. So very, very important. So let's talk about sleep wellness. Sleep really is essential to our wellness, and the mattress is the most important tool to achieving the best sleep possible. So we've come up with what we call the 4 pillars of healthy sleep when it comes to your bed, and these are things that you really need to find when looking for a mattress, and intelliBED really does a great job of achieving those things. So the first thing that it needs is great alignment support, right? So it needs to really support your spine properly. There are still biomechanics at play and still good posture at play when we sleep, so we do need a bed that's going to give us good alignment support. The second thing we need is we need comfort, right? We have to be comfortable when we sleep, otherwise we're going to continually toss and turn. So we need good pressure relief so we can be very comfortable, which of course promotes deep healing sleep. The third thing we need to achieve is we really need to sleep on a bed that's completely non-toxic, simply because it just makes sense. If you're spending a third of your life sleeping, you have to be on something that is safe. And that's one of intelliBED's missions, is really to get people sleeping better and on safer materials. And I think your readers will be really interested in that portion of the webinar. And then finally, we really want our bed to perform like new for as long as possible. I think buying a mattress is probably one of the worst things to have to do, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad now I only have to do it once.
Right, once every 25, 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's this rule in the mattress industry that you have to replace your bed every maybe 5 to 7, 5 to 8 years, and that's really not the case if you're buying the right materials. And so we'll kind of get into the durability and why that's really important to healthy sleep. So now let's review the stages of sleep, because I always think it's a good reminder to understand what happens during each stage. So there's 5 stages. REM obviously is the highest stage. We've heard of REM. It's called rapid eye movement. It's where we do our dreaming, and it's also where the majority of our memories, they get what's called encoded and consolidated, meaning that as we go through our day and we meet new people and we have new experiences, those memories get consolidated during REM. And then there's 4 stages of non-REM. The first 2 stages are really just the cycle between wakefulness and light sleep. And then when we get down into the deep stages, stage 3 or stage 4, also known as delta sleep, that's really where all of our deep healing starts to occur. So it's also where we get the release of growth hormone and prolactin, which are of course very important for the body's reparative processes. So it's where your tissues and your joints and your muscles and your bones, they all start to rebuild, and so does your immune system. So it's very important to stay in deep sleep for as long as possible. So this is actually what kind of like an ideal sleep cycle will look like. We'll start off awake, then we'll progress down through the stages, hit deep sleep, come back up, hit REM, and go back down again. So as I said, this looks kind of ideal. Most of our sleep cycles are actually going to look a little bit more fragmented than this. So you're going to see typically on somebody's sleep cycles little spikes coming up. And what that means is that you're actually interrupting your sleep cycle. And one of the easiest ways to interrupt your sleep cycle is the amount of tossing and turning that we do, right? So tossing and turning is actually kind of a normal part of sleep. We all do it. But the bed can really play a big role in how much we're tossing and turning. So for example, if we're on a very uncomfortable sleep surface or it's starting to sag and not provide you good alignment support, you're going to have to continually toss and turn to take pressure off of your soft tissues like your shoulders and your hips. And every time you do that, you end up fragmenting your sleep cycle, taking yourself out of deep sleep, and basically stopping all the healing that's taking place within the body. Does that make sense?
It does, and you know, that's something I never had thought of before, but it really does make a lot of sense, and especially the healing component. It's so vital, especially as for me, I have a lot of healing to do still with my own health issues, so that's really important.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about what role the mattress should really play. So it's really 2 components that we just kind of touched on earlier, but the first one is support, as I said. Poor support is actually the leading cause of low back pain, right? So as I said earlier, there's still biomechanics at play while we sleep, and there's still good posture at play. I always like to say that, you know, a lot of us know how to sit properly, how to stand properly, you know, how to lift boxes properly, but a lot of us just aren't aware that there's still support at play while we're sleeping, and so we need a bed to provide us with that good support. And then next, we also need the bed to provide us with really good pressure relief, as I said, because if you're on a bed that's very comfortable or very pressure relieving, it reduces the tossing and turning, so it allows you to stay in the deeper stages of sleep longer. And we really think that today's modern mattresses, they really don't do a good job of providing back support and pressure relief. And we'll get into reasons why. So let's talk about the anatomy of a typical bed. I think beds are pretty simple to understand, but like I said, most of us are just not very good at buying them because, let's face it, we don't have to do it very often, right? We make decisions on what we eat, gosh, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, right? So a lot of us are really good at making good food choices, but a lot of us just aren't good at choosing mattresses because we just don't have to do it very often. So when you look at the anatomy of a typical bed, it's got 2 layers. It's got a cushioning layer meant to give the body good pressure relief, right, so we're comfortable. And then below that, it's got a support layer. And in today's beds, the cushioning layer is typically made up of foam or a combination of different foams. Polyurethane foam is very familiar to people. It's really in almost everything you can think of. It's in the chairs we're sitting on. It's in your car. It's in your furniture. It's in your mattress. So it's in a lot of different places. And then there's other types of foam, like memory foam. Gelled memory foam, latex foam. So there's a lot more that I haven't even listed, but that's the majority of what's being used in mattresses today. And then below that, in the support layer, it's meant to give the body good spinal alignment, and typically the materials used are either inner spring, a very firm polyurethane foam, it could be latex, or it could be an air chamber. There used to be water, but it's pretty hard to find a water bed anymore, right?
I haven't seen one for a long time.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what the build-out of a bed looks like. So as you can see there, on the left, you see a blue foam. That's called gel-infused memory foam. They call it gel foam, but really it's just speckles of gel and kind of injected into the foam. And then what you see then on the right is different types of polyurethane type of foams. And then, of course, below that's going to be the inner spring. So this is going to be what a typical Tempur-Pedic or a foam core bed looks like. Most people don't know this unless they've unzipped a Tempur-Pedic, but it's typically about, anywhere from 6 to 7 inches of really firm polyurethane foam, and then above that a couple inches of memory foam.
Now, I have a question about this because I've had readers tell me they're concerned about buying a mattress that has polyurethane foam or any foam in general because they think it could off-gas. So can you tell me more about that? Because I know intelliBED does use polyurethane foam.
Absolutely, and that's a really important distinction. So we have done a lot of research within this industry. intelliBED's actually been in business for 16 years. We're based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And we have been using a form of polyurethane called a soy foam. Polyurethane in and of itself is actually pretty safe. It's a very stable material. Where it gets to be dangerous is when you spray it with additives. Okay, so additives could be chemical flame retardants. It could be chemicals to actually change the characteristics of the foam. So for example, let me tell you a little bit about memory foam. Most memory foam is made by injecting polyurethane foam or spraying it with different chemicals that actually turn it into slow rebounding viscoelastic memory foam. But the problem with that process is that some of the chemicals that they use are known carcinogens. So does it really make sense to spend a third of your life sleeping on a bed that's off-gassing toxic fumes? I don't think so.
Well, and the thing is, memory foam mattresses are so expensive, and they're supposed to be like the best thing to sleep on, but it doesn't sound like it.
Well, they do an excellent job marketing their product, and that's what we're really trying to explain to people, is that what most people do is they really don't think about their bed as a health and wellness product, and let's face it, it is. We're spending so much time on it.
Yeah, I agree.
So people today are really basing their decision on what bed to buy based on price and on the marketing. And we really think that there should be important research done before you make a decision on what you're going to sleep on for the next anywhere from 5 to 30 years. So one of the things I wanted to mention, Lauren, is that the polyurethane foam that we do use, as I said, it's a soy foam. And I do like to mention to your readers that we do use foams that are going to, we're going to remove the protein that would cause an allergic reaction. So if you had a reader that was allergic to soy or allergic to latex,
Okay.
The foam is processed to remove that protein that would cause an allergic reaction. So shouldn't be concerned about that. Latex is from a rubber tree, so we don't need to worry about that foam. It's a natural organic foam. And then the soy foam, we actually purchase it from an organization that independently tests the foam. They test it for heavy metals, formaldehyde, phthalates, ozone depleters, and VOC emissions. And this foam is perfectly safe. Otherwise, we wouldn't use it.
Okay. That's really good to know. And something that I trust the integrity of intelliBED so much after learning about how you guys source your materials. I mean, you have my complete faith because I've seen the extensive testing that you guys have done on all your materials.
Well, we take it really seriously, Lauren. Our founder is an engineer, and he's actually one of the engineers that helped create the intelliGEL, the blue material we'll get to in a second. And I think over the past 16 years we've been in business, he's created over 400 different versions of intelliBED. Wow. Just to make sure that we're making the safest bed possible that produces the highest levels of sleep efficiency possible. So we appreciate you pointing that out because it really is important to us. Okay, let's get to the history of flame retardants because I think this is something that's going to be interesting to your readers as well. So in 1975, California began the implementation of what's called TB 117 that requires materials such as polyurethane foam to be able to withstand a small open flame for at least 12 seconds. Okay. As of 2006, all mattresses sold in the U.S. by federal law are required to use flame retardants. So flame retardants really have always kind of been in question. A lot of people have always questioned, are they really valid? Is it really necessary to use these within beds? And I actually ended up learning a lot about the history of flame retardants just by watching the movie Toxic Hot Seat.
A reader told me about this movie in a comment, and I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my to-do list.
It's well worth it. It's incredibly interesting. What it is basically alluding to, and of course this is what, Chicago Tribune, as it says, they allege that the chemical and the tobacco industries basically came together in a campaign to increase the use of fire retardants in the home. So the way the movie tells it is that the cigarette companies did not want to put a flame retardant in the cigarettes because it was going to change the flavor. And so they didn't want to mess with what was working, right? So they basically started blaming it on the furniture industry. So,
wow. Yeah.
And so supposedly that's the way it came to be, at least that's from the perspective of the documentary Toxic Hot Seat. One of the other things that it tells you within the documentary is that firefighters have much higher rates of cancer and other chronic illness because of their contact with so much flame retardants.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Right? It's really, I think it's pretty darn crazy. So let's talk a little bit about different fire retardants that are used in beds. So PBDEs, which are now banned, they were allowed to be used up until the end of last year. But obviously they were found to be pretty darn toxic, so they replaced it with TDC IPP. However, they're not very safe either. They're known to cause cancer. They're known to be endocrine disruptors. We also know that there is antimony used as a fire retardant, which is a suspected carcinogen, and formaldehyde is a known carcinogen.
Formaldehyde? Wow. Wow, that's one I didn't expect to see on the list.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. It's in a lot of our products, unfortunately. So it really leads to the question, why should I be concerned, right? The government's not going to, put something into a product that's going to make me sick. Well, we really should do our own research. So if we're sleeping on a surface for 8 hours a night, and children, think about it, much longer. Infants up to 16 hours a night. What you end up getting is that low-level repeated exposure, which leads to what we call bioaccumulation. And with the human body being a biochemical machine, it just lends itself to really taking in all those toxins and having it affect the body, if that makes sense. So it says here, just as chemical pharmaceuticals alter your physiology, an internal dose of other biologically active foreign chemicals can disrupt our physiology.
And I'm so glad that I see the parasympathetic mode on this slide, because this is something that is so important to educate people about. People are most vulnerable when they're sleeping, especially when they're in their deepest stages of sleep. So when you have the off-gassing mattress compared in addition to your most vulnerable state, it's a really bad combination.
Well, you got it. So kind of following up to this last slide, when you have that chronic presence of toxins, it ends up leading to a chronic disruption of our human biology, which of course can lead to chronic illness. And even though a lot of us wouldn't think, oh, I definitely got cancer from my mattress, right? I think a lot of us are kind of suspect and thinking, well, I wonder why, you know, like in your case, my autoimmune disorder became worse when I got a new bed, right? So I think a lot of us are a little suspect of the toxins that are in our environment. And then closing out this section, you know, our respiratory and neurological systems are directly exposed to the toxic off-gassing of these different toxic materials within mattresses, like these flame retardants. And a lot of flame retardants have been linked to cancer, respiratory issues, neurological issues like memory loss, so a lot of different things. Scientists have also found that the exposure to toxic fire retardant chemicals at critical points in development can damage our reproductive system and cause deficits in motor skills, learning, memory, and behavior, right?
This is one of the reasons I think pregnant mothers and babies, they are the top priority for having a healthy mattress.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Pregnant women and small children should absolutely be the priority. And then there was a study that I learned about recently, PBDE flame retardants as a potential autism risk factor. Yeah, that was from a recent an article that came out relatively recently.
I also read something that sudden infant death syndrome can be correlated or might have something to do with the off-gassing chemicals from mattresses.
Yeah, you're right. So there was a couple different things. There was a physician out of New Zealand who was trying to figure out why New Zealand had basically twice the rate of SIDS as any other first world country, and he couldn't figure out, like, what is this common factor? And he ended up tracing it back to the toxicity within crib mattresses. And they ended up having a campaign within New Zealand to basically create these special covers to cover all these old crib mattresses, and they found that they were basically able to eradicate SIDS, which is crazy.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about. Yeah. And then the other thing, there was actually an article that came out from the University of Texas back in April of this year, and same sort of research. These engineers did a study where they found that the toxic off-gassing from crib mattresses unfortunately led to SIDS and then other issues, like I said, neurological issues, respiratory issues, things like that. Crazy. So let's get back to the 4 pillars of healthy sleep. And I kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but just to kind of reiterate, we really believe that these 4 pillars are necessary for healthy and restorative sleep, which of course can really have an effect on how we express our health. So we need great alignment support, really good pressure relief, a completely non-toxic surface, and then it really has to be durable because we really need it to last for as long as possible. So let's dive into those 4 pillars just a little bit more. The reason that intelliBED will use an inner spring as the base of our beds is because, number one, it's a very durable material, so it's going to last a long time. Plus, because we offer 30-year warranties on the beds, we have to use thicker gauge steel, more springs in the beds, so it's a very durable material. And plus, an inner spring actually does a good job of leveling your hips and shoulders out, right? Because we carry the majority of our weight in our hip region, our hips want to tend to sag, or what we call hammock, into the mattress. And so when you're on an inner spring, it really helps kind of push your hips up to be more level with your shoulders so your spine's in good alignment.
And this was one of the things that hooked me, is because I'm a dancer. I do ballet just for fun. And so pelvic alignment and spinal alignment is super important to me, and I was really interested that regular mattresses do not support your hips properly.
Absolutely, you're exactly right. And just to kind of bring up 2 other companies, Select Comfort that uses an air chamber and then Tempur-Pedic that uses a polyurethane foam core. We choose not to use foam or air as our support structure because foam breaks down pretty quickly. So when it breaks down, it's not providing you with good alignment. And then with air, well, I should say both foam and air, they both conform to the body, so it allows the hips to sink into the air mattress, if that makes sense. So really, especially from a chiropractic perspective, it doesn't make sense because you don't want your hips to sag too far. You really want your spine to be in good alignment.
Makes sense to me.
So let's talk about pressure relief. This is really what makes intelliBED so unique, is we are using the patented intelliGel. And just to give your readers a little bit of history on intelliGel, it was created by, in part, by one of our founders who's an engineer. And he was working for an engineering firm, and at the time in Utah, this was about 16, 17 years ago, and they wanted to come up with a material that was going to replace foam. So they wanted to find something a lot more durable than foam, less toxic than foam, and then a lot more pressure relieving. So they definitely accomplished it. It's quite an amazing material. It was first used in as wheelchair seat cushions because they found that patients that were confined to wheelchairs, maybe like a quadriplegic or a paraplegic, they found that the gel could actually prevent bed sores.
Wow.
Which is huge, I know.
Wow.
So it was so successful that it moved into the hospital market, and it's sold under another name. It's called IsoFlex, but it's the same exact material. And they've done studies where they've been able to prove that not only can it cure bed sores, up to stage 4 bed sores, but it can prevent them as well. So it's got a really great pedigree behind it. I'll just explain real quickly how it works. It's arranged in a series of hollow 1-inch columns, this gel. It stands about 2.5 inches tall. That's the very top portion of our mattress, is the intelliGel. And it works on the engineering principle called column buckling. So how column buckling works is this: if you distribute your weight over a broad surface, kind of like you're lying on your back on your intelliBED, the columns are very supportive, so it remains standing. And I hate to always use this analogy, but I think it makes sense with a lot of people. If you've ever seen a guy lay down on a bed of nails,
I've never seen that. I don't want to.
Right? That's not how an intelliBED feels, I promise. But it's a great analogy because if you've ever seen it or if you understand the concept, the reason why that person does not get hurt when he's laying on his back is because he's distributing his weight over a broad surface. Right? So it's the same thing with the gel. The columns remain standing when you're on your back. But a lot of us are side sleepers, so when we go to roll over to our side, the bonier parts like our shoulders and hips will actually cause the columns to buckle. So that means that you're getting better pressure relief over your shoulders and hips, but it's still supportive at your recessed areas like your waist. So those 4 pictures on the left-hand side of the screen really do a great job of showing you exactly how pressure relieving and supportive the gel is. So what you're looking at is the same person lying on their side, and it's pretty easy to see where their hips and their shoulders are. So this person was pressure mapped on an inner spring, a memory foam, an air mattress, and a gel bed, obviously our bed. And what you want to try to avoid when you're on your side is the yellow and red areas, because the more yellow and red you see, the more often you're going to have to toss and turn. And the more you toss and turn, the more you fragment your sleep cycle, you stop the release of growth hormone and prolactin, right? And you lower your sleep efficiency. So we want to avoid that. So what I think is remarkable is over the intelliBED picture, there's no red or yellow areas. So he's getting really good pressure relief, which again just means he can stay in deep sleep longer. And then of course, the other thing I think is really interesting is if you look at the outline of the bodies really closely, the guy on the intelliGel bed just looks like he's a bigger person, and he's not. It's the same guy on the 4 different beds. So what that tells me is not only is he getting better pressure relief, but he's actually getting better alignment support too. So
Interesting.
Really huge. That's really what makes our product so different from anything else. So our third pillar of healthy sleep would be a safe, non-toxic surface. We just think it makes sense if we're spending 1/3 of our lives sleeping, we really should be on a product that's safe. So some facts about our company. intelliGel is made from a food-grade mineral oil. It's the same thing as baby oil that you'd buy at the store, but it's made without the scent. The raw materials from which intelliGel is made is approved for the use in baby bottle nipples and children's toys, so it's very safe. We're only going to use a natural foam like a latex or a soy, and I kind of already explained a little bit about those. The soy foam we use is a polyurethane, but it is what's called CertiPure certified, so it's made without, like I said, heavy metals, formaldehyde, phthalates, and ozone depleters. And then finally, really important, we have never used in the history of our company conventional chemical sprays to make our bed fire retardant. We still have to abide by the federal law, so what we do is we use a fiber. It's like a fabric. It's a non-toxic silica fiber, and it kind of looks like a piece of gauze. So if you've ever injured, you being a dancer, if you've ever injured an ankle or something like that, and you've had to, or scraped something and you had to wrap gauze around it, that's kind of what it looks like.
Interesting. I don't see it on my mattress, though. Like, my mattress is just this, it has a soft cotton cover.
Yeah, so it's actually wrapped around the inside of the bed.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Not on the outside, just on the inside. So let's talk about organic versus non-toxic. So is buying organic always the best option? I think this will be pretty interesting for your readers too. Organic mattresses, they're typically made using either cotton, wool, or latex, or a combination. And because they are organic, right, they typically degrade pretty quickly, and you need to repurchase every few years. The other thing about these materials is they're not really conducive to producing the best quality sleep, so you're not getting great alignment support or pressure relief on these materials as well. So they definitely have their downfall. And then, of course, non-toxic mattresses, we're talking about intelliBED in this case. We can't say that we're organic. However, but every single material that we use is non-toxic. And like I said, we've tested every single material to make sure that it's completely safe. And as a side note, we do work with a couple different autism organizations. And you might know this, Lauren, but autistic children are very sensitive to their environments. Mm-hmm. And we've got, the stamp of approval from several different organizations because they're really happy with how we build our beds, if that makes sense.
That's great. Yeah, I believe it.
And then the last thing is we're really durable. I mean, the materials that we use are graded to last 30 years, and so we really can last 4 to 5 times as long as an organic mattress. And although we don't want to always base our decision on price, you're going to spend quite a bit for an organic mattress, and if you have to buy it every 4 or 5 years, that's going to quickly add up. So the last thing I want to talk about is durability. This is the last pillar of healthy sleep. There's a common test in the mattress industry called the rollator test, and you're looking at that picture on the left-hand side. It's just a giant roller, and it rolls across the bed a couple 100,000 times, and that's meant to simulate around 10 to 15 years of use. And so every different bed and every different material is tested within the industry. And so then what you can see on the right in the graph is how those materials performed against one another. So no surprise, intelliGel performed incredibly well. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but we have the exclusive license to be able to use intelliGel in the United States and Canada. So nobody else can use this material. So what they found with the intelliGel after they tested it is that the material doesn't degrade, but it does soften a little bit. So it softens no more than 4.4% in 30 years.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah, and you mentioned that you have a, what was it, 30-year?
30-year warranty.
Warranty, yeah.
30-year warranty on 3 of the beds, a 20-year warranty on 1 of the beds. And just as a side note, part of the reason that I ended up getting involved with the company, obviously not only because they have a great mission and they have a lot of integrity, but I've actually been on my intelliBED, the same one, for 11 years. And I'm 11 years later, and you can still get eye level with my bed, and it still looks completely brand new. There's no body impressions, indentations, sagging, anything. And it feels the same today as when I got it 11 years ago, and that's incredible to me. And I don't want to have to ever think about, having to buy another bed. It's just nice to just have it work for a really long time.
I agree. Wow. Well, thank you so much for all your information, sharing that with us. I first want to share my experience. You just shared a little bit of your experience. Your bed lasted you 11 years. I haven't had mine for that long. I've had it for about a month. But I'm never going to switch to anything else. So the craziest thing is I started waking up an hour earlier every morning on the dot and just like so refreshed and ready to jump out of bed. Like usually without an alarm, I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and feel kind of groggy. And literally for the past 3 weeks on the dot, I have been waking up at 7 a.m. and just like ready to jump out of bed.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you
and
know
the
what it is? It's because you're actually able to stay in the deeper levels of sleep longer, and you're tossing and turning a lot less.
so it's really quality over quantity.
Correct.
I wouldn't have believed it, but I'm sleeping better than ever. It's such a blessing too because I was like I fixed everything in my life. I've gotten rid of all the chemicals in my life. I'm eating so healthy. Why am I still laying in bed for hours before I can fall asleep? And why do I still wake up tired?
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited about this, and that's the main reason I wanted to share intelliBED with my readers. But the thing is, I have to say, I can't stand sleeping in another bed now. Like, if when I travel, it's the worst. I go back to not being able to sleep. So
Yeah, well, I'll
that's a
tell
bummer.
you. I travel quite a bit, and although I love to travel, it's not very fun when you don't sleep very well on a hotel bed. So I love getting back to my IntelliBED because I definitely
Mhm.
sleep so much better on it.
Yeah. And speaking from my own experience too, I did get the sticker shock when I began looking at non-toxic mattress options. But like you said, I realized I'm going to spend a third of my life on my mattress. And when it comes to IntelliBED, it's going to stay as good as new for decades. So for me, it really did make sense to prioritize a mattress that is both non-toxic and improves the quality of my sleep. And I do want to mention that even though a full IntelliBED mattress may not be in everyone's budget, they have some great options. They have mattress toppers and also pillows that are made with the same gel. And I have the pillow too. It's awesome. And that I do take with me when I travel.
Yeah,
And oh, what were you
I,
going to say?
yeah, I was going to say that we always get the suggestion to make a travel pillow. So
Oh,
hopefully we'll end up making a pillow that's about half the size, so you can just take it with you, and it'll make it easier on you, Lauren.
that would be great because I get some funny looks when I take it on the airplane. So I will be looking forward to that.
Okay.
And I do want to say that I only recommend products like this when I've had a great personal experience with not only the product but also the people at the company. And I've had multiple conversations with the founders of IntelliBED, Bob Rasmussen and Sean Clark. And I have so much integrity and so much admiration for their integrity.
Hmm.
They are just on a mission to provide quality sleep and really passionate about non-toxic sleep. So I've had such a positive experience that I wanted to share it with you, and I reached out to IntelliBED and was able to negotiate a coupon for you. You can enter Empowered, it's not case sensitive, at intellibed.com, and you'll get 10% off your purchase. Also, they have incredible customer service to help you select the right mattress. You can just call them anytime with questions. That's how I figured out what mattress I needed because they have some different options depending on how you sleep and the support you need. They also offer a 60-day money-back guarantee, so if you aren't happy with your mattress, you can return it for a full refund, and they will pay for your return shipping. And they are only able to offer this because hardly anyone ever returns their mattress. So I've been blown away by the integrity of the company, and they are doing a huge service in their mission to educate everyone about mattress toxicity. So Nicole, before we end, can you show exactly how someone would use my promo code on intellibed.com for the discount?
Yeah, be happy to. So let's take you to our website. So you can see that right there. That's our home page. And Lauren brought up a good point. You know, our return rate's so low. It's around, it kind of hovers between 2% and 3%. And just to kind of give you an idea, typically in the industry, it's around 14 to 18%. So, yeah, people that buy it, they love it. So we're going to take you to the shop page, and you're going to see some of our 4 different beds. We only have 4. We make it pretty easy. You have 2 options. You can either call us on the phone, and the number is going to be right at the top right there. Monday through Friday, you'll be able to talk to somebody live. And they'll ask you a series of questions to be able to determine what bed is going to actually be best for you and best for your condition. So we actually list some of those conditions here on the right side. So if you have, say, fibromyalgia, you can click on that and find out which bed's going to work best for you. So let's just go to the bed that I sleep on, which is the Posture Perfect. And I wanted to just kind of show you first, it'll show you an image of what the bed's going to look like when it arrives at your home. The other thing about intelliBED is we really want to be as transparent with our consumers as possible. So we actually put the build out of the intelliBED right there, and then you can actually read what's inside and read about all the different layers that are in an intelliBED. So let's pretend like we are purchasing a bed today. So if I say, okay, I personally sleep on a king, I'm going to get a box spring. I already have a frame, so I'm not going to select one of those. And then I'm going to get the mattress protector, because that does allow you to, the 60-day trial. And as Lauren said, if for any reason you don't like your intelliBED, you can return it, and we even pay for return shipping. So I really don't know of another company like that. And if you have any readers that are fans of Nordstrom, that's really our goal to be.
I'm a fan of Nordstrom.
I'm a fan of Nordstrom too. So it's really our goal to be the Nordstrom of bed companies. We just really want to have the best customer service possible. So if I come in here and put in Empowered, I'm going to hit the Apply coupon. And if you scroll down, you can actually see right in here where this took off $398.90. So your readers, because you were such a good negotiator,
they get a chunk of change.
That's a chunk of change, so they can get 10% off. And then all they have to do is proceed to checkout from there. So it's very simple. Do you have any questions about how to order or our website?
I don't. I think it looks really straightforward. Is there anything else you wanted to add to the webinar before we close?
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head. We really, our mission really is to get people sleeping better and on safer materials, and we just appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our really revolutionary product with your readers.
Well, thank you so much for all your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope this has answered some of your questions about mattress materials and sleep quality. So I wish you happy, healthy sleep.